Hey everyone, it's Lexi. Welcome to Top 5 Wednesdays. If you're new to Top 5 Wednesdays and you're interested in participating, I'll have everything linked down below for topics and such to the Goodreads account. And if you're also new to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So today's topic is books without a romance. So I really enjoyed this tag because just because I feel like a lot of books are centered around like romances and all of these things. So when I saw that there was one that was like specifically books that didn't have romance in them, I was like totally up my alley. So it was actually pretty easy finding books that didn't really have a romance in there. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first book I have is one that I read towards the end of last year and I really enjoyed it, and it is The Lake House by Kate Morton. It follows like kind of dual storyline basically. It kind of follows the story of this detective who's kind of on vacation visiting her father, and she stumbles upon this kind of abandoned lake house, and she's really intrigued with kind of the history and like everything that took place in this house over like 60 years ago. So then we flash back to the summer of 1933 to Alice, who is a young girl at the time, and when her parents are hosting a kind of Midsummer Eve's party that they throw every year. During the fireworks display, her brother is stolen from his crib, never to be seen again, and this kind of led to that house being left in turmoil and all of that stuff. So what I really like about this book again is it's not really relationship based. There's no subplot of a romance in here at all, which is really, really nice, but also just kind of like how the author can seamlessly weave in these different like between the two storylines and make them connect at the end. I really loved it how it was also like kind of like a historical mystery that kind of tied into present day, which I really enjoyed. The characters in here are really complex and dynamic, and it's pretty big book, I will say, and the author usually relies on narrative instead of like conversations to move the story along, so it does take a while to read, but I really enjoyed it. There's a couple books that this author has written that I want to get to, so this one was a really good way to start getting introduced to the author, and I highly recommend this book. I think a lot of people will really like it. Next, this is a series that I was meaning to get to for the longest time, and I finally ended up reading it a couple months ago, and it is Still Life by Louise, and this is the first book in the Inspector Gamache series. So basically this follows a detective who works in Montreal and on Canadian Thanksgiving, which is in October for you Americans out there. We do our Thanksgiving a little bit earlier. He is called to this small town called Three Pines, where kind of a elderly woman has been shot, and they think it might be a hunting accident, but this inspector kind of suspects that there is more foul play involved with this. And what I like about this, like, it's a little different than kind of the stereotypical crime novels that I've read in the past, unlike the ones where the detectives are very arrogant and self-centered and rude. Inspector Gamache is really soft-spoken. He really listens to the people there, and yeah, he's just really different from what you typically see in this genre, and he really respects his wife. He doesn't cheat on her. He loves her, and like he will actually call to her to advice. So that was really neat to kind of get that kind of breath of fresh air when it came to that. But what I like about this, there's no romance kind of undertone to this at all. It's basically strictly a crime novel, like a murder mystery. And if you're Canadian and you like, this book obviously takes place in Canada, so if you're Canadian, there's little tidbits in here that you will get if you're familiar with Canada or if you live in Canada. So that was always nice to see, because it does have that Canadian little twist of like Canadian culture to it as well, which I really enjoyed. And there's no romance in it, so that's an added plus. So this is probably one of my all-time favorite books ever. I always talk about this book, so you're not going to be surprised about me mentioning it, but it is Codenamed Verity by Wein, and there is no romance in here whatsoever. So basically the premise of this book is it follows two friends during World War II, where they're both kind of fighting with the Allies in England. So Julie, the book starts out with Julie, who is captured by the Nazis in France, and she's kind of being interrogated, and part of the interrogation is she has to write down everything that she knows about her best friend Maddie, who they suspect is kind of stuck in or may have died in France during the plane that took her there. So it kind of like it basically showcases their friendship. So this is kind of like a different kind of love. It's not like a romance, but it's like kind of the love between two friends. So, but it's not like a romance, but this is a really incredibly moving book. I'm not really a big fan of YA, and this one is kind of YA, but I think it's more kind of the mature end of it, and I think it's really well done. One of my all-time favorite books. There's many quotes in here that I have like underlined, and yeah, like you can see here. So this book is just really moving, and I think a lot of people will really like it as well, and there's no romance, so yeah. So starting to shake things up a little bit, I've also included a fantasy book. So this one, I think a lot of fantasy have like kind of a romance intertwined with them. So this one was really easy to, like, it stands out from the crowd, I think, in terms of kind of being romance, kind of like undertones to it. And it is The Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. This is probably one of my all-time favorite fantasy like series ever. I really love it, and it follows a girl named Kelsey who on her 18th birthday, she, like when she was born, she was kind of, her mother sent her to live with this couple in the forest, like to be protected, and on her 18th birthday she has to go back and reclaim her throne. And what I really like about this series is that Kelsey has no desire to be in a relationship whatsoever. She kind of just cares more about her kingdom and just getting her kingdom back on track, and like she just could care less about boys and like worried about that because she has bigger things at hand than, you know, crushes and all that, which I really like. Kelsey is such an amazing character. She's really strong, and like it's a very good feminist book, I will say, because it does have that feminist undertones, and it does raise a lot of issues, and does raise it also kind of showcases a lot of the issues in terms of rape culture and just how women in kind of some societies can be like seen as second-class citizens and like all of this stuff. So I really loved kind of seeing this play out as the series progresses. I know that the last book had a lot of mixed feelings, but I really loved it. So this is more adult fantasy, so just be aware. I say maybe wait till you're 17 or 18 if you're younger reading this, because it is pretty dark and explicit in some instances. But overall, I love how it's a fantasy with a female protagonist who has no interest in being in a romantic relationship because she has other things that she needs to focus her efforts on. So lastly, this book is the Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly, and this is basically kind of a nonfiction story weaved in with one that's fictional. It follows the story of 3 women during World War II and the roles that they played. It follows, I forget their names, Caroline, who is a New York socialite who kind of, we don't really understand her role until later on, but she will send in like shipments to France for the orphans and all that. And then we follow, I can't remember their names, we follow Cassia, who is a Polish teenager who ends up being captured by the Nazis and is sent to Ravensbrück, which is essentially the only female concentration camp that the Nazis had, and they also perform medical experiments on the women, who are called rabbits. And then also we have, I'm pretty sure it's Herta, yeah, Herta, who was a female Nazi officer who worked at Ravensbrück. And what I really like about this is that Caroline and Herta are who were real women who played a role in World War II, and how their paths, all 3 women's paths, intertwined. And so this book has no romance in it whatsoever. There might be like a little bit here or there, but overall there's no subplot of a romantic storyline in here, which is really nice. It basically just follows these 3 women in their story during World War II and how they all intertwine towards the end. I really enjoyed this book. I think it is really good. It's up there between like Codename Verity, The Nightingale, like all those books. I really like it. I like how it showcases the role that women had during World War II, during like all the different like aspects of the war, like being at home, being a Nazi officer, which was pretty uncommon for women, and then also being a victim of World War II. So I like how it showcased all of that as well, and there's no romance in here as well, so that's always a breath of fresh air. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about some of these books and what are some of your favorite books that don't have any romance in them. So yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And so yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.